Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my channel. This week I'm going to be doing something a bit different. So it's going to be called the Jlint podcast. I've got my ex-colleague and a very good friend of mine, Jay, that's on the first podcast today. Hello Jay, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. And we're going to be talking about, well, Jay's going to do a real big thing today, and he's going to be talking about his experiences with anxiety and depression. Thank you for doing this, Jay. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to do this. No, nice one.
Raise awareness.
That's the main thing about that, isn't it? The main thing about this video. We want to raise awareness, and hopefully you can share some experiences and give some advice, and hopefully this can inspire others.
That's it.
One thing I must say as well is, if you are struggling with depression or anxiety or anything like that, and you don't feel like you've got anyone to talk to, there are charities that do support this. There's someone called Evolving Mindset. So if you go to www.involvingmindset.co.uk, they are a charity that also sponsor and help people that struggle with mental health. Also, my inbox is always open, or if you have my number, I'm only a phone call, text away. You spoke to me last year, didn't you, Jay? You weren't too good of a place, was you, in the first bit of lockdown? And give me a
That's
call.
it. Yeah, I remember our conversation. Lasted for a good while, from what
Yeah,
I
it was
remember.
3 hours, weren't it?
Yeah, it was a long call.
Where did it all start, Jay? Where did it all, how did you know you had it, or what triggered it?
I think for me, I've suffered with it pretty much since I was about 8 or 9, when my mum and dad split up. Um, that was kind of the underlying side of things that I knew I already had. But what really kind of kick-started it all off was, weirdly enough, it was down to a relationship breakdown at the start of last year, which is when I knew instantly that something wasn't right. The easiest way that I could possibly put it is, throughout my teen years and stuff like that, I always wanted to do things different. I always wanted to be different. The crowds that I hung around with were the kind of crowds that would be with a girl one week and with someone else the next. Whereas I was always, I'm going to repeat what my mum and dad done, but I'm going to do it different. They had 26 years of happiness. I want 26 years and beyond that. Granted, albeit I got my judgment a little bit wrong and my demeanour went on a completely different level, because I ended up becoming part of that sociality group of, I'll have one girl this week, I'll have one girl that week, I'll have this relationship for a year, but still do this with so-and-so. And then when I finally grew up and I finally found someone who I thought, I'm not going to cheat on this person, like, my whole life has changed around. Yeah, like I'm different. I could feel it, like how different I felt.
I remember you saying to me, because obviously we worked together, I remember you saying how you felt towards this girl, and exactly what you said, wasn't it?
That's it, exactly. And when that relationship broke down, or wasn't so much when the relationship broke down, it was more my own head, my own mentality around it. Was, I found myself getting more jealous, and I found myself getting paranoid about really ridiculous things, and it kind of put a lot of pressure on the relationship then. And not just that, it kind of made it spiral out of control for myself, because I knew that I was pretty much digging a deeper pit for myself, that I've got my happiness, but yet for some reason in my heart I feel happy, but in my head it now wants to mess things up, because I'm now putting my own judgments on myself into other people. Like, I was constantly thinking, this person's going to do exactly what I used to do. They're going to be speaking to this lad, that lad, and this person and that person. They're going to be doing this and they're going to be doing that. And when that relationship broke down, and the reason why it broke down was because of how I was becoming across, I could pretty much sit here now and say that I was becoming obsessive and I was becoming a bit of a control freak because of my own judgment on myself. And And I guess that is primarily where what I thought was underlying finally burst and was like, that's it. That's the final straw. I went through things before this with obviously the loss of my daughter, and then not seeing my other daughter. But I guess in some ways, my selfishness never let that affect me, because that was part of that at that time of my life. That was the part where I didn't care for other people's feelings. It was about me. If I wanted to go out and see this person, I'd go out and see that person. Regardless of whether I was in a relationship or not, I would always bounce from one to another or a couple of times. But when things really started to settle down in life, and once I finally started becoming the man who I wanted to become, it was like my previous former self was there to try and punish me. But rather than me reacting to myself, I would push my own insecurities, my own feelings, my own jealousy and paranoia onto the people who I cared about and make it out to be their fault.
Yeah. Do you think, like jumping one girl to another, was that like a competitive thing with your friends, or was it like an ego boost for yourself, or was it social media?
Definitely an ego boost for myself.
Okay.
I've always had self-confidence issues. I've always looked at myself in terms of, I ain't good enough for this person. But then when I found that I was getting attention from someone else, it was like, oh, okay. So I'm good enough for her, and I'm good enough for her.
Yeah.
I was getting I was having my cake and eating it, I guess is the expression to use. Even though morally, and I know 110% is wrong, it's not the right thing to do, because it is playing with people's feelings. And granted, looking back, I do feel disgusted that the person who I was in a long-term committed relationship with, I didn't feel no guilt or resentment. I'd still go back home and I'd be like, yeah, you're all right, I love you, and this, that, and the other, and pretend like everything was okay.
It's not fair, is it?
No, it's not at all.
You know, anxiety. How do you suffer with that? I must admit, before you say anything, I've got to confess it. I didn't know what anxiety was 5 or 6 years ago. I thought it was like a migraine. I did. So like, I've had someone in my life that used to struggle with it. They used to say, oh, I get anxiety from this, or my response was first time, and they laughed at me. I said, I have a tablet. I didn't know what it was, but yeah, I mean, if you can abbreviate on what anxiety is and how you've struggled with it.
There's many forms of anxiety. People could be feeling anxious about leaving their house, because they might feel that they get judged on the pair of shoes that they wear. And they might feel anxious because they're going to be meeting new people in a shop that they've never seen before. And it could be just something as simple as needing to go and get bread. I think a lot of my anxiety was based socially. When I had a good day around my social anxiety, I could talk the head off a donkey. Pretty much, you've seen it.
Yeah.
I can come across really confident at times. But a lot of my anxiety stems from the kind of person that I used to be. And I'm afraid of them coming back. I feel a lot more headstrong and a lot more heartstrong than what I used to do, but I still get that anxious feeling like someone's sitting on my shoulder whispering, yeah, but remember when you were doing that, you didn't feel hurt, you didn't feel pain, you didn't feel upset, you felt like you.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm anxious, I guess, more so than anything, and what I suffer with anxiety more is, what if I hurt people again? What if I can't talk to someone at a new job that I may get in the future? Or what if I completely clam up like I do sometimes? And I guess, like I say, anxiety does form across many different worlds, I guess. But definitely mine was around social anxiety is probably the biggest.
Right. Is that like meeting new people and stuff like that? Or
Yeah,
yeah,
the fear of being judged, the fear of not being up to their standards, I guess is the biggest thing. And my biggest caveat around that is social media. Social media to me has made me the way that I've become with social awkwardness, because you see people being judgmental for being a stone overweight, a stone underweight, for eating this, for eating that, for doing this or for doing that. So
I think that ruins life. Social media quite a lot. It's one of them. I mean, you see all like these celebrities or reality stars, and they've got their Louis Vuitton bag or the Gucci trainers on, or they're promoting this, and they've got immaculate white teeth, and it's not, the pain that they must go through and the stuff that they must go through as well mentally isn't good. It's just all for show. And with social media, you never really put a lot of negative things on it. It's always going to be your highlights, isn't it? So I mean,
exactly.
me and my, in past relationships, past relationship I had, and past relationships my friends have had, or the relationships they're currently having at the moment, they're never going to put on the bad stuff of that relationship. It's always going to be the good stuff. And this is where we get drilled into our brains that, look at them having such a happy life, but I'm not. And it does mess up people's mental health a lot, doesn't it?
It does, because a lot of people build up that perfect picture, like you say, in their own mind, thinking, well, if they've got it, we're going to have it. But they don't see behind the closed doors of the arguments over who's cooking dinner or who's doing this. They don't see the bad, they only see the good.
I've spoken to you before. You was in like a dark place, wasn't you, at one stage? What was your thoughts and what was your feelings when you was in that dark place?
I guess the darkest place I was thinking about ending it all, pretty much putting an end to my life. I kind of had this sense that I've tried and I failed, I've tried and I failed, and I've tried and I failed, and I kept going through it round and round in my head. The darkest point of my life was probably the strangest feeling of actually getting the urge. I
Mm,
don't know whether anyone else who's going to be watching this video will be able to relate, but people can have dark thoughts. People have thoughts every single day about all different things, about, oh, when's this going to break? How am I going to be able to afford it? How can I fork out this amount of money? And people have those thoughts all the time. But one of the things that scared me was the bodily sensation that I got, and the fire in my belly, the adrenaline running through my veins. And I guess that was the darkest point, was because something from somewhere, and I don't know how or what, stopped me
mm.
from going to that place. But sitting there at 3 o'clock in the morning and contemplating about ending my own life through such extreme measures, which, if you don't mind me sharing, I'll share.
Yeah,
Um,
as long as you feel comfortable saying it.
but basically, a lot of people will sit there and think that an overdose is the best way, or they'll think that cutting themselves or doing something drastic to themselves will help alleviate and take the pain away. And in my circumstance, my thought was to access the dark web
Mm.
and basically get a handgun delivered, and basically take myself into the middle of nowhere, miles and miles away, where it's fields for miles on miles, so no one would ever find me, and just pull the trigger. And the darkest thing around that was not so much thinking it. It was, like I say, the fire in my belly, the adrenaline running through, and the fact that at 3 o'clock in the morning, mentally and physically exhausted, the fact that my legs started to twitch, like it was like, come on then, get up, do it, come on, this is what you want, let's do it. And that terrifies me.
That's a demon, isn't it? You got to fight that
Yeah.
demon. Yeah. Wow. That's mad. Wow. That's mad, Jay. I mean, I know two people that unfortunately aren't here anymore, and they took their own lives, and that was through hanging themselves. And I think, like, I mean, it must be you must be in such a dark place to do something like that, or even, like you say, have the fire in the belly to do that. But you don't know what goes through people's heads. But the only advice I can say is just you have to talk to people, don't you? I mean, the two people that took their lives, they had a lot of good people around them that would have, and they had my numbers. If they said I was in trouble or anything, I would have been there to help them. And the main thing is talk. You got to talk, haven't you? How did you
That's it.
through not doing that? What was the next stage? What was the next step?
A lot of people in a certain situation will think about the things that they leave behind, or they might not even think about such things at all. What I found, or what a lot of people will find, is if they do hold on to life, it's because of something or someone. Some will relate to their mums and dads, some will relate to their family as a whole. For me, it wasn't so much my family, it was more towards my daughter. And even though it's been a struggle, I haven't seen her for 7 years, it was clinging on to that tiny, tiny bit of hope that one day I'll be reunited with her. And if I went and done what I was thinking and what my dark thoughts had been around, that tiny, tiny ounce of hope of ever seeing her again would have been gone and shattered.
Yeah. Did you seek help or anything when you was in the dark place? Or
To begin with, no. It was only after a conversation with my dad around the thoughts that I'd been having, and he basically turned around and said, "Mate, that's really dark, like seriously dark." And I turned around and said, "I need to get help."
yeah,
I said, "I don't know where to go, how to do it, or what to seek, or to do anything around it." And it was only a phone call to the doctors, and they turned around and they said around pills and tablets. And I was like, "I'm sorry." I said, "But I'm not going on tablets. Not happening, not a chance." And they pointed me in the direction of a counsellor through CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. And I guess even though there was a waiting list, so I had my initial assessment, and with my initial assessment, they said that my depression levels weren't on a high enough scale, so therefore the waiting list will be shorter. I think the wait was around 6 to 8 weeks at the time. However, I then got a later phone call once they'd been through my assessment and they looked at my scores. I got a phone call later that day and said, "Look, there's been a bit of miscommunication. You're actually a severe level of depression and anxiety. Now, you've got two options. You can stay on the light course, which you'll be looking at around half an hour sessions every couple of weeks for the next 6 weeks. Or you can go to an hour a session once a week for the next 12 weeks. However, the waiting list for that one is up to 16 weeks."
wow,
And the part of me in my head was like, can I really go on for 16 weeks knowing that I've had thoughts about what I've been thinking about?
mm.
Or do I just bite the bullet and go for the one in 16 weeks and have the longer sessions for a longer period of time, knowing that this could literally solve and alleviate everything?
Do you think it's helped you?
To a certain extent.
Which one
To a
did you
certain,
go for? You went for
I
the
went I went for the deep course of it, yeah. So an hour session once a week for 12 weeks. I do think it helped. It certainly helped a lot with the depression side of things, for certain.
Yeah.
I still suffer with the anxiety. I don't think anxiety truly ever goes away. I guess in some ways I don't suppose that depression ever does as well. I mean, it can linger and it can strike again at any point, whether it be through a relationship breakdown again, or whether it be through a death of a family member or someone you know. So,
Yeah.
but certainly anxiety wise, that's on a level.
So, how are you now? What's the next steps in your life? How are you coping with it now after having all that?
I guess the biggest thing for next steps is what I mentioned before. A lot of my anxiety stems from now relationship problems with jealousy and stuff. So I'm going to seek help from a relationship counselor
Right.
to discuss around the jealousy and stuff like that, and hopefully put the demon to bed around, well, because I was like how I used to be, why isn't anyone else going to be out there to hurt me, type of thing.
Mm.
And
Everyone, go on, carry on.
hopefully then to build a strong foundation for me and my current partner.
So, it's a bit of a this was to do it through mental health, wasn't it? And a bit of a lovely little love story, wasn't it?
It
Through Tik
was,
through TikTok, was it? You've met your new partner.
yeah, it was, yeah. TikTok love.
That's good. Fair play.
um, so yeah, it pretty much stemmed. I guess the easiest way to put it is I seen a video that she put up around mental health, and I basically just held my hand out and said, "Look, I'm always here if you want to talk." And coming up to 4 months later, we're together. So
Happy days.
yeah, exactly.
That's a lovely story as well. I think it's really nice. You reached out and it's developed into love, hasn't it?
That's it. That's it.
Would you say she inspired you as well at all with how your struggles are, or does she lift you?
Definitely,
I'm sure she does. Yeah, that's
definitely,
good.
definitely. She's been a huge lift. Um, I don't I don't imagine a day without her. She's the reason I get up in the morning, and she's the reason why I go to bed with a smile on my face. Like, she was
That's
in a
lovely.
year from where I was at this time last year to where I am now.
Yeah,
It's like that.
there's a bright light at the end of the tunnel, isn't there?
Yeah,
I mean, me, I had a bad patch probably 2 years ago for about 3 months. I went on a massive high and I just crashed. I went on a massive low. And then it just makes the little things make you realize that, there is more to life than these dark times. And you do get lifted, don't you? And, it's a
that's
lovely
it.
story to
That's
hear
it.
that you now found love and you're really, really happy. Is there any advice you'd give to anyone struggling with it, or is there anything that you would like to say about it?
I guess the biggest piece of advice, and I think the biggest thing around this, is manly pride. There's a lot of men out there who are like, no, I've got pride, I've got power. Like, I don't need to go and see a doctor. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. I don't need to show emotions. Trust me, every man needs to show emotion. It doesn't make them weaker. It doesn't make them any less of a man for doing it or seeking help. And that's certainly how I felt when I'd done it. Granted, at the beginning stages, I did feel like, well, this is just, I'm coming across like a weakling. But once you go through it, once you do seek help, and I would recommend anyone who is suffering at the present moment in time to go and seek that help, because in the long run, it will benefit you. And no matter how hard you think things will get a lot easier later on down the line. You've just got to be willing to take that time to help yourself by getting the help that people need. My counselor made me laugh with the final thing she said. Counselors need counselors.
Yeah, it's true. That is true.
We all need help. We've just not got to be afraid to ask for it. That's my biggest piece of advice. Never be afraid.
It's okay to be not okay, isn't it? It's the saying as well. So yeah,
Exactly.
we're all human, aren't we? And we all get through it with help off one another.
Exactly. Exactly. If you've got people around you who you can lean on, you know, they're always going to have you back. They're always going to be there for you. But they will always push you in a direction, even if you find it at the hardest point. The
Yeah,
easiest direction to take is get that help.
that's good, man. Well, Jay, I'm going to wrap it up now. If not anything else you want to say, is there? Apart
No,
from that,
not at all.
thank you for doing this, and thank you for taking time out your day to speak about this. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure you will inspire others. I will put your TikTok on the link in the description as well, so people can go and check it out. And I mean, there was one TikTok, I think that was probably about 18 months ago, and that touched me a lot. Like that was probably when you was struggling with your demons, weren't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I will pull it. I mean, you can see your journey now and see how happy and you lovey dovey now, ain't you? TikTok and stuff. It's
That's
really
it.
nice to see. It's refreshing. No, I'm happy that you're happier and you're on the up now, mate. And yeah,
Definitely. Definitely.
right. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up now. I'm done. Anything you want to say to the viewers? You want to say adios amigos or anything?
Adios amigos to everyone. But honestly, take the time out, just 5 minutes a day, because the one thing I've learned more than anything is we are stronger than the demons that we carry.
That's it.
So everyone get help. Don't
Definitely.
shy away.
100%. 100% with you on that one. So yeah, everyone, it's a bit different, but I hope this helps you. I'll see you for another video next week. I'm out. Peace.